Okay, the magic machine tells me I'm live, and I'm still learning to not look here, but try to look up here. And we're off to an amazing start. No one, but no one, pays attention to TTRPG channels at all. Even the ones that talk about 5e. I'm telling you, it's all artificial traffic, I think. Really, I think caused by people have no idea how much artificial traffic is probably caused by bots engaged, maybe possibly by Watsy and Hasbro. Really, people don't account for. No one has done even a thought experiment about, if you're not talking about 5A, you don't get any traction. And I'm like, has anyone even thought to ask the question, how many bots are employed by Hasbro? Do you not think that could be a possibility? We all go around saying, "Oh, there's more people playing." People say things like, There are more people playing 5e today than were ever playing Dungeons and Dragons. There are more people playing Dungeons and Dragons today than there ever were before." And I'm like, I remember the cultural impact that Dungeons and Dragons had back in the day, and how much people talked about people playing Dungeons and Dragons and Dungeons and Dragons. The only time people talk about Dungeons and Dragons in my modern worldview that I hear or encounter anyone talking about role playing games is in this virtual reality of the internet, where I self select go to spaces where people are talking about TTRPGs. Glickner, the guy that does the Roll for Combat YouTube channel, and he's like the major domo behind. He's like the biggest third party publisher of Paizo Pathfinder 2e material. At his table, he commented that, like, at the end of this whole quote unquote OGL debacle, that there was a player at his table who had never heard about it. And that's at Glickner's fucking table. And, I don't want to go back into the conspiracy theory that I had, where I was like one of the only people, no offense, everybody's a fucking lemming. There was no OGL crisis. It was totally effing concocted. Nothing happened. Could have something happened? Would have something happened if they had only done this? Yeah, or Watsy dickbags or whatever. They're corporatists. It's a capitalist economy, and they were whatever they contemplated doing, they didn't do it. But whatever, nothing happened. And 5e went into Creative Commons. So literally nothing happened. No one was harmed. No one was hurt. No warehouses were closed. No documents were seized. Pathfinder 2 did. And Pathfinder 2, they sold out all these books and then quickly turned around and said, oh, by the way, Pathfinder Remaster is coming out. Thanks for buying all those books that we could have told you a remaster was coming for. So hold on, don't buy those books. Did Glickner know that remaster was coming? Don't get me started. Because people will just call me a Watsy fanboy like I like Watsy. Anyway, just whetting your appetite. Who's the Walter Bosley channel's here? Got to get ready for my show in 45 minutes. But wanted to show support. I appreciate it. Walter Bosley. If you're going to have one handler this year from the military industrial complex, I mean, I'm sorry. If the Walter Bosley channel, no affiliation to the military industrial complex, independent filmmaker Walter Bosley, his hands are clean. Walter Bosley, he wouldn't do that. No Doty, no Doty, no Doty of mine. Richard Doty, man, that guy sucks. Walter Bosley, that guy, I'm showing my support. All I know is that today would be a great day for a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Why did I say that? I must kill the queen. Listen, I kid because I love Walter Bosley. I swear to God, I would die if anything ever happened to him. Why did I say that? Anyway, Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Now, folks, if you thought I was off on, listen, let me do this. Here we go. I kid. Mario Heat, first in the live chat. Gold medal onto you. Golden coin, 100, second in the live chat. Ironically, silver medal onto thee. Tim Frey, joining us all the way from the land of the rising teabag, England, merry old England. Hello. Can you believe I got listeners all the way, watchers all the way from England? Can you believe it? Earl Grey. Here you go. Pussy in bio. Now I gotta check my bio. Did I add the wrong links? Did I add the wrong links? See Mario Heat. Now, folks, I'm not checking to make sure. Main channel. Oh, because Twitter, Instagram. Making sure. Okay, yeah. No, I'm good. Woo! You got me scared. I thought I'd entered in my OnlyFans or my FetLife. Ah. Speaking of steamy, oh, here we go. That was me making a joke about bot engagement. Well, it's okay because no one watches this channel anyway. And even if they did, the people that are the great thing that I'm blessed with is all of my main detractors. Honestly, folks, hey, folks, take a look at the description box below. You might be saying to yourself, with a person like with a paltry viewership and subscription basis that like this guy has, why would he go ahead and have a Patreon? Listen, folks, I actually have a sordid history on YouTube. I've been here for more than just this channel. And I've been here so long, I had long enough to actually got sued. So listen, when I hear people like certain people talk about being canceled and whatever in this TTRPG space, I just want to say you guys are some real friendly neighborhood game stores. You guys have no idea what cancellation actually looks like, okay? I can show you the court documents that attest to the fact that I've got 32,000 plus in legal fees. Okay, I don't want to hear about this. The libtards got together and first of all, some of you guys didn't get canceled. What happened was you up on the internet, right? You got caught out there being douchebags on the internet. And your beard got clipped in the Xerox machine. Okay, that's not being canceled. Okay, that's why helicopters weren't deployed. Okay, listen, folks, it's all political. No, it's not. But we're going to talk all over the place, and I'm sure I'm going to make tons of friends and well wishers in the OSR. This book spanks. This is a great book. This is an amazing rule set. Lamentations of the Flame Princess has quite the reputation. I'm going to make this last derivation quick before I get back to you. Here's the problem. You want something new, you want something different. That's what you're saying. Then you get it, and you're like, "What? Why isn't this guy getting to the topic at hand?" When most people who know about Lamentations of the Flame Princess already know about it, heard about it, know exactly what it is, and probably already bought it. Its copyright is 2013. And I'm going to talk about it and its brilliance. And I'm also going to talk about the OSR, and people are going to probably crank on me for that. Because when I contemplate the OSR, I'm not going to hate on it, but I do what I do when it comes to things like talking about the OGL crisis isn't real and people are all lemmings. And I'm going to talk about what I talk about when I talk about the OSR, which is, folks, you can't be nostalgic for a thing that you weren't there for. And if we know for a fact that the OSR with games like Labyrinth Lord, that I think has a copyright of 2008, and Chris Gonnerman's basic fantasy role-playing game that goes back to 2000, I think goes back even as far as like 2006. Ostrich goes back to 2006, 2008. Lamentations of the Flame Princess that goes back to 2013. It's 11 years old. The classic rules have been, and the recapitulation of the various rules for clarity and completeness and reorganization, like old school essentials, have been done. We could talk about being nostalgic for the nostalgia. And yet we can look and we can see Ben from Questing Beast talking about, is the OSR finally getting through to the mainstream or ready for the mainstream, and look for evidence of that in the notion that there are things on Kickstarter doing $1 million in sales. Not taking into account that that's not 1 million units shifted of any product. That's just $1 million in, well, we know it's Kickstarter, so it's really $1 million in promises. But even that notwithstanding, if you know anything about what a dollar is in today's terms compared to what a dollar was in the days of Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson in 1983, 84, 82, I'm not trying to detract from the success of, Shadow Dark or Knave or any of these things. But to act as though that these things are anything other than niche endeavors, that these are hobby endeavors, and that of the people that play 5e, yes, there will be some that will feel the call and, the see the YouTube video saying, you should know your history and you should know where these games came from. But the facts are that when the Ostrich rules were codified out of the original OGL license, cobbled together the original OGL materials, and when Chris Gonnerman created Basic Fantasy out of the OGL materials, and when Dark Dungeons was when someone recreated the Rules Cyclopedia, when the original retro clones were created out of the original OGL Wizards of the Coast 2000 3.5 SRD. Part of that endeavor was because these books were not in print. They wanted to preserve history. They wanted to make sure that where things were not clear because of how the material was presented, things could be rendered clear, because they wanted to maintain their history that they had experienced at the tables that they were at in the 70s and at the 80s. You can't be nostalgic for something that you weren't there for. You can want to learn the history. There will be people that will say, back in the day, basketball was actually played with a basket. When someone scored a basket, someone would have to get up on a ladder. Referee or coach would say, actually get that ball up out of there. Until someone finally figured out, we're having a lot of debates about what's actually in the basket or what bounced out. Why don't we just cut a hole in the bottom of that basket so some sucker doesn't have to keep on getting up on a ladder, and we don't have to figure out what's actually hitting off the rim and what's, bouncing up out of the basket. But every once in a while, you'll see people are like, either on YouTube or whatever, playing it the old school way with an actual effing basket. But when people who play, the majority of people who play 5e are playing a game system that, while it has the same name, Dungeons and Dragons, has no actual relationship to the rules of the basic expert edition, from which retro clones and pseudo retro clones like Lamentations of the Flame Princess are derived. And eventually, bearing in mind the fact that 5e itself this year, because it came out at the end of 2014, technically, is turning 10 years itself. When 5e players get nostalgic, they're not going to get nostalgic for the red box. They're going to get nostalgic for 5e. Those that remember, those who started playing when they were young to feel nostalgic for it, those who weren't people that were old school players who just got back into 5e because they started getting nostalgic because their nostalgia itch was triggered by dry humping the cash cow 80s nostalgia rebrands like Stranger Things. It is what it is, folks. Lamentations of the Flame Princess. Now, look, I bought Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I bought this book probably about 2022, when, after getting back into TTRPGs and wanting to fill in, getting out post-divorce, getting out of storage, my old real collection of TTRPGs like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Other Strangeness and Robotech, and then deciding to fill in the blanks in that collection with used books that I didn't have back in the day or had gone missing. Started buying new shit. But buying too many new books, buying more books than I can actually read. I bought this book, but didn't read it. But not to go too far afield, we say hello to Phil Blair here as well, baby. How you doing, Phil Blair? I found myself time traveling to 2013. On the Wilcock of David. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, now you do. We'll always have contact in the desert. Walter. We'll always have hover cars. Memories, like the lamentations of my mind. Now, here's where it gets funky, because getting sick and tired of time traveling through 2013 for the better part of April of 2024, if you know, you know. Most people probably know, but some people probably don't. I started reading this book that's also from 2013, and I read it pretty much cover to cover, though I didn't get through all of the spells. Anyone who knows role-playing game rule books, and especially player core rule books, you look at it, and this is a tight and concise volume. When I actually get to the review, and we're about 20 minutes in, so in about 45 minutes, hang in there, kids, because I'm going to get to the material, and it's going to be doozy. The majority of any, am I right, folks? Is this the truth or is this not the truth? The majority of any player handbook, especially for a high fantasy or even a low fantasy game, is like 50% spells. If you decide that you're going to run kind of like a, either just like a straight medieval campaign, or you're going to do something along the lines of like Game of Thrones, where magic is extremely limited, you're going to like tear through like most books. You're going to be able to tear through most rule books in about like 18, 20 minutes, right? You're going to get your guys up and running in like no time at all. If you decide to do OD&D no magic, right? And maybe even like, cut the hobbits, halflings, like, and, cut the halflings, the elves, and the dwarves right out of there. Forget it. It's like electric football. You'll be like playing, like, you know what I mean? It would take you longer to learn the rules of Monopoly. Crubopoly. Honestly, right? That's it. What are we fighting? Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Hexcrawl, we're going. You'll be dead in a half hour, but that, you know what I mean? Time of your lives. I was going to 2013, but then I didn't get high because I quit smoking. But jokes notwithstanding, or jokes standing, I then decided to go to 2022. It wasn't until today that I opened this up and realized this thing was copyrighted in 2013. So it's 11 years old, folks. So we can start getting nostalgic. So this was 30 years post, right? The Red Box. But this is the 9th printing from 2022. And 2022 is currently where I'm hanging out. Like I said, if you know, you know. And a lot of people are lost. Don't worry. All you have to do is watch basically the last 10 years of me on YouTube, and you'll be right up to speed. And you're probably saying to yourselves, CW, I don't want to do that. And I want to say, I can't say I blame you. So look, Lamentations of the Flame Princess is more known for its reputation now. And its reputation is not for its rules, though it probably should be. Its rules, by almost every estimation that I'd heard previous to it, the presentation of the rules in this book, it's my understanding that at one point where this thing kind of got started was as kind of a box set, where there was this rule book in some form or another, or some iteration of these rules in some form or another, a DM, a referee style book, and an adventure and some dice, and like a box set, like we would see it of old. And as a rule set, it is more or less a retro clone of Basic Expert Dungeons and Dragons. Basic Expert retro clones of Dungeons and Dragons come in a variety of flavors. It can either be, a straight recapitulation of Basic Expert Dungeons and Dragons, usually with in the beginning, usually it was just simply the books are deteriorating, the books are falling apart, so we are going to use the SRD materials to put some original version of D&D out again. Like a Holmes Basic, or the Red Box, a reiteration of an older rule set in some new form. either as close to as is the original edition, or the original edition clarified, or the original edition clarified and changed to make it work as the author or the recapitulator thinks is better. Or it can be more abstracted from that point out, losing the THACO, to hit armor class 0 and replacing that with an ascending armor class, losing race as class, like in original dungeon, like at first basic expert, where a halfling and an elf and a dwarf, those are classes onto themselves, not individual species who can be magic users or fighting men or clerics as well. But those are things, classes onto themselves, like changing those things. Or they're the basic expert rules, but taken into a new genre in space or in the haunted, freaky Old West or something. Lamentations of the Flame Princess is, as a recapitulation of the rules, is a clarification. And looking at the rule cyclopedia that I pulled off the shelf, what's amazing about this book, the Dungeon Master materials, the referee materials, I understand at one point was available. I haven't seen it available like on Amazon or anything. So I just have this player book, Rules and Magic. It does away with to hit armor class 0, replaces that with an ascending armor class. It makes its own tweaks and changes to the basic expert rules. It maintains the dwarf, the elf, and the halfling as classes onto themselves. What's amazing, and what you'll see consistent in other reviews of this material, the author is one James Edward Raggi IV, who, it must be said, what is absolutely amazing is the clarification with which the rules are set forth, and also the ability with which a vast array of material is able to be put forth and gone through in such a small book. If we look at the table of contents, we get from character creation, basically, all through character creation takes all of page 5 through page 9. We have the classes of cleric, fighter, magic user, and specialist. Specialist instead of thief is done away with. We don't replace that with a rogue. We have a specialist that has a D6 based skill system that's quite ingenious. Then we have our elf, our halfling, our dwarf, elf, and halfling onto themselves. All of those classes are dealt with through pages 11 through 25. We have our equipment lists on page 27. Then the adventuring rules of the game begin on page 31. Architecture, climbing, doors, excavations, experience points, defeating enemies, recovering treasure, gaining a level. All of that is covered between page 31 and 34. Foraging and hunting is handled on page 34. Getting lost is handled on page 35. Hazards, 35. Ability score loss, 35. Aging, page 35. Damage, page 35. Disease, 35. Drugs and alcohol, 36. Falling, 36. Poison, 36. Starvation, 36. Sleep deprivation, 36. Healing, 36. Languages, 37. Light and vision, 37. Mapping, 37. Movement and encumbrance, 38. Mounts, 39. Searching, 39. Sleight of hand, 40. Stealth, 40. Swimming, 40. Time, 40. Tinkering, 40. Traps, 41. Maritime adventures, 43. 44. Water vessels, 43. Water conditions, 44. Crew, 44. Encounters at sea, 45. Water chases, waterborne combat, vessels and damage, ship-to-ship combat, boarding vessels, all handled on 2 pages, 45 and 46. Retainers, 47 through 50. And when I talk about retainers, accountant, alchemist, animal handler, armorer, butler, coachman, craftsman, guard, guide, henchman, laborer, link boy, mercenary, physician, sailor, sailor captain, sailor navigator, sailor, oarsman, scholar, servant, slave, slave master, spy, teamster. Hiring retainers, 51. When loyalty should be checked. Property and finance. Property, upkeep, taxes, investment, yearly return, bankrupt? Now, I want to pause there. That's basically what's known as kind of like domain play. The clarity with which these rules are given is really kind of amazing. The clarity with which it is discussed why those rules matter, investment, why in property and finance, why you would need to invest in upkeep, the penalties that would be incurred if you would fail to invest or employ an accountant, the hazards that would be involved in investing in various ventures, how those ventures could either, turn out well or turn out bad. It's really quite. Also, just some of the amazing art here. Lamentations of the Flame, for instance, is really has more of a reputation for its kind of gross out stuff. But in this book, you'll see that most of the art is of a eye-catching nature rather than kind of a lurid thing. But the daily wages of these retainers, the need of these retainers, the clarity with which those things are explained, it's really quite a beautiful system. And it's really kind of really, really clearly so well thought out and so well organized, and it really makes its case. I dare say that even if you were the type of player who might pick up the book thinking, okay, I'm not really interested in messing around, or if you're the player or the referee and you think to yourself, I'm not really interested in messing around with, domain level play. I'm not really interested in messing around with thinking about the players or myself worrying about taking this gold and hiring an accountant or worrying about managing those sort of affairs. I dare say you might, having taken the time to read those sections of this book, walk away not only thinking to yourself, oh yeah, that makes sense, but actually being stoked and being desirous to want to make sure and maybe play a little bit more conservatively to ensure your survival, your player character's survival for another day, to see if you could quest on to get to that much more vaulted level where you could reach that level of domain play, where you could get from your first rented room to your first estate and be so lucky as to worry about requiring the needs of an accountant to make sure that you don't start losing more money from the books or from the taxes because you failed to do so. Really, this is the sort of game that I based on the sort of play that I do. I do much more solo play than I do anything else. If anything else, though, I am gearing up to game master. It's looking like it's going to happen. It's looking like my kids are finally going to play. So I'm going to be game mastering a game, though not Lamentations of the Flame Princess. But even if you're not going to end up playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess, I got to tell you, as role-playing games books go, and there are plenty of people like me who end up reading more rule books than they end up playing. Though it's famous for its gross out, crazy, push the edge adventures, and though I respect their freedom of speech rights and their decisions to publish some of the work and be involved in some of the work that they go with, that Mr. Radji goes with. I think they cause, more problems than they need to. And I don't think that, a thing like white power was an experiment worth running. I think it was a bullshit endeavor, not worthy of the ink that it was printed on. And I think that if the author of that work had ever been the victim of real violence, I don't think that they would have been so glib as to do that. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know the individual's biography. Maybe I don't know the history of Mr. Radji enough to know that they haven't paid the cost. They haven't paid the iron price to make those sort of decisions. But back to the point that I was making, though I'm not through all of the spells, and some of the spells are clearly, kind of reiterations, like a lot of OSR recapitulations of spells that we've seen before. There are some that are not. Though I would say, and I've seen other people point this out as well, some of the spells like summon, if anyone is going to cast summon, it seems as though like gameplay could really bog down, because the summon spell seems like literally like a mini game onto itself. It seems like you could be there all day trying to figure out what the heck is going on. Or it could be a mini game on itself, like, pre-rolling, or just, doing what you want to do. It's a beautiful book. It's a hardcover edition. It fits neatly in a briefcase, man bag, merce, or backpack for travel. And it was certainly more pleasurable to read than the 400 odd pages of David Wilcock's Synchronicity Key that I was reading simultaneously. I give it a hearty recommend. I'm definitely going to keep it around, and it'll definitely get several rereads. I've bought a lot of role-playing game books, and I'm getting to the point where we reach points where we realize that not everything is a keeper. There's no way in heck that I think anyone who purchases Lamentations of the Flame Princess, Player Core Book, Rules of Magic, would ever see themselves voluntarily splitting with it. I mean, unless they if they accept Christ and, do that. It's definitely a keeper. Lamentations of the Flame Princess as a kind of genre world, for want of a better term, this thing is marked 18 plus, though there's not a lot of 18 plus material in this core rule book. It's known as a publishing endeavor, and it's known as a it's labeled as a weird fantasy role play. It's it's known for kind of like a kind of a death metal, black metal kind of bizarro aesthetic generally, but there's not too much of that in this core book. I couldn't speak for every other piece of material put out by the company. So it's definitely, a recommended buy. It's not too much money. I haven't checked out what it is recently, but of purchases that I've made of new TTRPGs, it's definitely a keeper. But like I said, new TTRPGs, it's 11 years old. And that's what, one of the things I wanted to say is that we're reaching a point where it's like, it's in print. The point at which people started with these retro clones, the original editions of these books were falling apart. People were saying that they were making these retro clones because there was a real fear and anxiety that these materials were going to go to dust. But now, go to DriveThruRPG, go to anywhere, these materials are now extant. They are being kept around by WotC, and then it becomes a political decision. We're not going to support WotC. We're not going to support Hasbro or whatever. Well, and then there's people that, from a political perspective or point of view, don't want to support Lamentations of the Flame Princess. And look, it seems patently obvious to me that if you look at the videos and the posts that people are making in the TTRPG space, if you look at even the comic space and other related hobby spaces, people can say whatever they want to about the fact that we're here for gaming, we're here for comics, we're here for the movies, we're here for the figures, we're here for the collectibles. If it bleeds, it leads. And people seem to be more and more preoccupied with fighting over politics, fighting over drama, fighting over this, that, and the other thing. And trying to make, Gamergate 2 happen. It's not going to happen. There's not going to be a Gamergate 2. Okay? And no one cares about whether you think this is woke or that's woke or whatever. It is what it is. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's like, look, people can got nostalgic for there was an OSR, there was an old school revival because back in the day, in the 80s, there were millions of people who ended up getting into Dungeons and Dragons because Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing games was a thing back in the 70s and 80s. And so because there were millions of people that got into it, like of the millions of units of the red box that were sold, the majority of them probably were opened up once. And of the select group of people who got really hardcore into it, a smaller percentage of those people remembered it enough to stick with it and to keep on going and to have enough of it in their heart to be nostalgic for it, to want to get into and recreate this thing called the OSR. And that created a big enough a community so that people that were 5e players or later on players or just geeks in general to get back into the culture, get into the culture. But as time progresses, that geekdom culture gets occupied by different things and different activities. A lot of people wonder about what's happening with comics. A lot of those kids that would have normally gone into comics in different generations are going into like manga and shit. Because it's a different hipness, a different flair, a different energy, or they're getting into games. And even the games have a different flavor and flair. And the companies are not going digital because they don't get it. They don't get what it's really about. No, they get exactly what it's about. It's about these companies, even back in the day, these companies are about making money. And there'll always be niche communities, and there'll always be people that are interested in smaller things and smaller operations. But those smaller niches and operations won't be necessarily doing enough to guarantee that there's going to be a certain number of community people alive or around to create the energy to make it worth somebody's while to create a revival for it or a revival show about it in the future. They're talking about, I know they're going to bring back Stranger Things like this year or something. I think it's going to fucking bomb. Why? We're past the 80s. We're into the 90s now on the nostalgia loops. You can see it. The big pants are back. I'm wearing this like a Nintendo-esque, this like mushroom shirt from Super Mario because I'm that too old. And compared to a lot of OSR cats, I'm young. I'm 48. You know what I mean? I didn't play OD&D. You know why? OD&D came out in 73, 74. I was born in 75. Deal with it. And there's like, you know what I mean? It is what it is, dudes. And $1 million in sales on Kickstarter is fucking nothing. You have to appreciate what the value of $1 is due to inflation in 2024. That's fucking nothing. It's fucking Etsy shop sale. That's like the world's biggest Etsy shop. It's like, it's ridiculous. And also people will go crazy about WotC or so money grabbing. Look at the prices that people are charging on Kickstarter for some of these things. Yeah, it's small and it's boutique, but it's still, you know what I mean? A lot of money for a book. And it's being sold to people who have everything. So now they get two of everything. Right? And how many of everything do you need? When the difference between Lamentations of the Flame Princess and Old School Essentials and Labyrinth Lord in this game, and this game, and this game is, well, this game, the modifiers go up +2, +3, but this one only has, it doesn't have a -1, the negative modifier on the. It's 2024. And when the rules of chess don't change, you people write books on chess strategy, but they don't keep on publishing the rules of chess. And if this dude nailed it in 2013 and the book is still available, I don't know why people are going bonerific over, this new thing and that new thing and the other new thing. Well, it's the same game. It's the illusion of change. It's pretending that there's something new. It's rolling a dice, figuring out if you beat a certain number to see whether or not you hit or don't hit, what the damage is. Oh, but this one has light. You have to pay attention to whether or not your light goes out. Everything had that. People just didn't pay attention to it before. The rules about your torch going out were there. The torch lasted for X amount of turns. Oh, but this one makes it really fucking important. The other ones made it important. You just didn't pay attention to it. This one just put it in bold. And some new dickhead on YouTube got together with another dickhead with it and decided to emphasize it until he was a thrill-a-minute thrill ride and all this bullshit. It's the same fucking game. $2d6 bell curve, D20 bell curve, whatever. Roll a dice, see if it works, and then you're playing a game. And where does your imagination take you? And are you actually committed? And are you actually playing? And are you actually doing something? Or are you just buying more books? Or you're just waiting for your turn to write a book and dream the dream that you're going to beat the system and quit your day job. It is what it is. But I'm negative Nelly, man. You know what I mean? That tends to be my shtick. I always end up kind of depressing at the end. But I don't mean to be. Hey, look. Oh, the game's a banger. It was written in 2013. I think it smokes. And the whole point is look. Ostrich, this thing, Basic Fantasy. These bad boys were written. The OSR thing. The original games are around and in print. Darkest Dungeon. These books were originally, the original retro clones are now retro. You don't need to buy anything else. The Robert Redmond clip channel. I'm actually writing a book. Lol. Except you. I wasn't talking about you. It's like those fucking dickheads, man, with the clip channels writing fucking books, thinking they're fucking Robert Redmond. Ooh. True story. True story. Kind of related, kind of unrelated. It reminds me. It actually turns out I just recently heard a song by this gal, Nico Case, that spanks. It's a song called, I think it's called Ragtime. And it fucking rules. Okay? So, but I was hanging out with this dude. He's actually, I haven't seen this guy in like 10 plus years, easy. But he's a really cool dude. He's a really cool dude. I'm gonna say I don't think he's dead, so I'm gonna say we refer to him in the present tense. I was hanging out with him in his basement, and we were just bullshitting, about music. And I kept on striking out because he kept on mentioning groups and hashtag no new music, right? And he kept on mentioning groups, and he kept on mentioning groups, and I kept on talking about, I don't really like them. And they turned out to be like every guy that I kept on saying that I didn't like, he like loved. And one of first one was, he was like Devin Townsend. You guys know who Devin Townsend is? Devin Townsend was this guy who, he's a Canadian musician, I think. And I have a thing about people. My friend, the California Bald Eagle, is going to choke on this one. I got this thing about musicians like Jordan Rudess. I got a thing about musicians with no hair. I have no respect for bald musicians. Like, it. It's not that I have no respect. I have respect for musicians who are bald if they shave their whole head. I got no respect for bald musicians who are like even Brian Eno. I got no respect for bald musicians who do like the whole like half a horseshoe thing. I don't know what it is. I'm like just like get out. Like I just, but whatever. So Devin Townsend was this guy, and where he first came to fame was he got picked by Steve Vai, the former guitarist for David Lee Roth and the one-time guitarist for Whitesnake. If people remember, not Pete Townsend, Devin Townsend. Steve Vai was in Whitesnake for a hot minute. Oh, shit! Can you see me? I had to switch cameras. Hold on, wait. Let's see if this works. Can you see me? Okay, I had to switch cameras. I was rocking and rolling for so long, the camera died. That's what happens. I told you I was trying to do this thing. Got to redo that thing. Okay, so it looks the same. I don't know why I think this camera's back. Yeah. There you go. Okay. So Devin Townsend originally got the gig to be the lead singer in like Steve Vai's band for like one album or so, or whatever. To make sure I'm not showing anything personally revealing on my bookshelf is bare because I'm trying to move shit around. Anyway. So after Devin Townsend left the Steve Vai band, he had this band called Strapping Young Lad. And it was kind of like thrash metal industrial, but I was like, it was called Strapping Young Lad. And he had formerly been in Steve Vai's band. So I was like, fuck you. So I was hanging out with this dude. He was this really fucking awesome dude. He was like Devin Townsend, Strapping Young. I was like, Strapping Young Lad. I was like, fuck you. I was like, the first of their name was called Strapping Young Lad. Fuck you. I was like, Devin Townsend, fuck that motherfucker. And he was like, actually. And it turns out that this dude was like basically like a Devin Townsend, like a Deadhead, but for Devin Townsend. Like he had the guys like every fucking record that Devin Townsend ever made, like knew the guy's whole fucking life story. He had this like stuff that was like solo records that Devin Townsend had made. And like one of them was like, it was all like pastel. And it was like Devin Townsend was on the cover like naked. It was like Devin Townsend is like the David Wilcock of like, but I can't deny that like he was playing me these tracks. And they were like good tracks. Like it's good. He shaved his head finally, but then it was like Jordan Rudess Town. Seventh Wave is the next. Like the guy was playing me tracks. He was schooling me on Devin Townsend. But it's like, those guys that it's like the guy can play, but it's still like I'm never gonna respect the dude. Do you know what I mean? They're like, honestly, like I've known guys in high school where it's like people were like, that guy's an EMT now. I heard he like delivered a kid and then like saved it from a burning building. And you're like, that's fucking awesome. And that guy's a fucking saint and angel for doing that. But that guy, I have, what do you want me to tell you? Right? He likes Billy Squire, right? Like, what do you want me to tell you? Do you know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. So, like, he had and he even he played me this Devin Townsend record. Yeah. Like, there's certain people, it's like, whatever, dude. He had this Devin Townsend record that was like a concept record about like an alien coming to planet, like an alien overlord coming to planet Earth and demanding, like the world's greatest cup of coffee. And I was like, and he played to me. And he like it opens up with like a spoken word piece, and I was like, cool, man. And I think we were getting high too, so it was like hard to talk to. But anyway, but then he started talking about Nico Case, and I gotta tell you something. I really didn't know anything about Nico Case, but I was like, you know what? I told it was like this is like before hashtag no new music. By the way, there's no new music that was created after 1997. It's all rehash and repeat. Even stuff that spanks. I heard a unreleased, I guess, Kanye West album from 2022 because, like I said, I'm into 2022 now for no fucking reason. But this reprint I had from Lamentations Flame Princess from 2022, but I didn't know that ahead of time. Well, anyway, this Fallout tarot card deck that I'm going to read from is from 2022. The Coffee Alien, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. But it's like a double album. Like, it was like, what? Anyway, but I was telling him this is like before 2022. No, this is before this is before. I'm getting lost. This is before hashtag no new music. This is like going back. This conversation happened before my kids were born. This is like going back to like 2009. That I'm having this conversation in this basement with this cat in his basement. And I'm like, you know what, dude? I'm like, I've heard of her. And I think I was like, can't her confused with cat power, to be totally honest. I'm like, you know what, dude? I'm like, that's cool, but I don't like anything that was like came out after the year 2000. So like Nico Case, like whatever, like whatever. And he's like, okay. He takes off his shirt. He has a Nico Case tattoo. That was an awkward moment, right? That was an awkward moment. Philip Blair says, "What about Evanescence after the year 2000?" Evanescence is not new music. That is like this OSR stuff. It's the illusion of something new. It's not new to have. If that's like, look, you have. It's the illusion of something new. You have a regular pop song, and then you just interject gruff, like pseudo extreme metal vocals on the verses to create the notion that it's something different. But even that, there was stuff that was like that beforehand, you know. But it's good music. Whether it's good or not doesn't make it new. What I'm saying is that prior to the year 1997, with like drum and bass music being my exemplar of like the last new music where you could say this doesn't sound exactly like things that came before it. The production is different, the sounds are different. This sounds like legitimately like things that we haven't heard before. Everything that we hear now, you can legitimately say, even though it might be new to the dumbass kids that are listening to it, you can point to things either 20, 15, or 30 years in the past and say it's just a recapitulation of something new. I think it might be a limitation of the music technology. There literally is post like noise music and like granular synthesis where you break down sounds into the smallest atomistic elements that can possibly be, from the extremes of silence to the extremes of extreme noise. We've covered everything. There's literally nothing new that people can do. And I say this all the time. And folks, I on my last stream on my other channel, I cover this. I said we've been doing these nostalgia loops so long. I've been on YouTube and I've been talking about this hashtag no new music thing for like not since 2015, so it hasn't been 9 years, but I've been talking about it probably since 2018. And consistently I've said, you want to show me something new? You want to show me new music? Come at me, boy. And there have only been a handful of takers. And every single one of them, they've said to me, what about this? And I've been like, no. And I've told them why. I think you're right. Only new tech in music is auto-tune. And that just ends up sounding like a vocoder. And remember, Cher was doing the first auto-tune hit was Cher's Do You Believe in Life After Love? And that was from 1996 or 7. And that's over 25 years ago. That's over 25 years ago. People don't realize how old they are. That's the other thing that's happening to us, especially on these channels, especially on these TTRPG channels. People don't realize how fucking old they are. God bless us. And the kids don't give a damn about the music they listen to. Oh, talk about good music. I heard an unreleased Kanye West album like Doda 2 or something, Doda 2 from 2022. It spanked, but it wasn't new music. It's not exactly like the shit that people were doing in the 60s and 70s and hip hop from the 80s or whatever. Phil Blair says maybe AI will be used by the youngsters to make something new in music. Unfortunately, AI, by definition, can only really recapitulate things that go into it. It's input, output. So we'll see. I'm not rooting against things that are new. I'm saying, show me something new. Show me what you've got, right? But like that alien, like that coffee drinking alien, if you don't bring me the best cup of coffee, if you don't bring me something new, I'm going to fucking kill you. Jonaside. There's new music, but no truly original music. Absolutely. There's no new music. There's new music being released. Absolutely. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. My drone metal record band just released a new record on Bandcamp just last month. Yeah, what's it called? Pure fucking Sabbath Worship Volume 4. Yeah? Come here. Fucking douchebags. Right? What's the opening track called? E minor. Fucking shut them up. Oh, you fucking bastards. I love you. You know what I mean? Like, God bless you. You know what I mean? Buy your fucking boutique guitar pedals. Fucking, and when we all die, and I tell people all the time, you like TTRPGs? That's fucking awesome. When you move, because you fucking blow your mortgage or you need a new place to rent, you will break your fucking back trying to move. And if you're a rich old bastard who buys everything, that's fucking fantastic. Because guess what? If you have no fucking kids, because you're a fucking loser, when you die, your sister who hates you and her kids are going to take your precious TTRPGs and they're going to throw them in the garbage. Or when the cops come in to do a wellness check, they're just going to take your shit and they're going to chuck it or put it in the Goodwill, where some fucking person's going to be like, I could sell these on Amazon for big bucks, or I'm going to put them on eBay for collector's prices. But by that time, all of your other no friends will have already died earlier. So the market will be gutted and glutted with them. So they'll have no fucking value. So they'll just go for nothing and you'll be dead anyway. Or if you do have kids, even though you did leave a beautiful note like, remember me and remember what I was into and think about playing these games, they won't. They're just putting them in an estate sale where some other vulture is going to come in and take them. Not a thought or a care of who you were or what you cared about. All they'll think about is the profit that they can turn, giving your relatives little or nothing for them. But don't worry, they'll probably get nothing for them either. Shadows and dust. This too shall pass. You're running out of time, my friend. Wake up. Stop playing games. It's time to die. Yeah, I'll go get the nurse. Okay, gotta work. Much love. A card for today. Let's end on a high note. 3 of muskets from the Fallout tarot deck. This is the equivalent of the 3 of wands. Watching the results of our work. Contemplating the results of our efforts. It's interesting because we were talking about the care with which the Lamentations of the Flame Princess handles things like investments, property, so-called domain play. And I was just talking about the results of the end of our days. But until our days end, the muskets, the wands, it's a suit of energy and creation. And 3 is a wonderful, powerful number. Our efforts can come together in tandem in creation. So pay attention to where you put your energy, where you put your efforts, where you put your investments, and mind the store. And mind that you make sure to look at all areas of your life. The workspace, the family space, and the personal space. Take care. God bless. God is bless. I love y'all. Phil Blair lets us know. I just blew my wad as an expression for musket times. Hey! Tim Frey says 3 non-wands. I like it. How familiar are you with Ben Wand technology? One thing I forgot to mention about Lamentations of the Flame Princess as well was in the appendix. I need to get mine removed. They have a detailed list of materials about firearms, like the wheel lock, the flintlock, the musket is right here, the matchlock. And with that brings their setting out of the well-trodden and maybe over-trodden space of just early medieval fantasy, and brings it more up to the Renaissance. So there you go. Apt. Don't forget to close the apt. And if you don't like what you see, get the funk out. And we end on an extreme note, as is the case often with Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I'd like to thank my sponsor, the number 23, and James Raggi the Fourth. Keep reaching for that rainbow, and don't shit your pants. It's not worth it. End scene. I love you. I love you. I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, someone just did. That somebody's CW Chanter. Make sure to take a look in the description box below. Like, comment, and subscribe. I order you to. You must do this. Like, comment, and subscribe. Do it now. Do what you're told. Peace be upon you.